6 years ago or so, when I was visiting my dentist, she found a lump in my throat. It was considered to be maybe just a lymph node reacting to an infection, but it had not gone away when I came back for a checkup. And then I was sent to a doctor, and then I was sent to get a biopsy, which came back non-cancerous. And then I endured a turnstile Kafkaesque nightmare of trying to get action in the Canadian healthcare system, which ended up with me fleeing to the United States, to the Oklahoma Surgery Center, where the great Dr. Keith Smith saved my life. Removed the tumor which had grown, or removed the lump which had grown, and you can see the scar here. The Canadian surgeon was going to open up my whole jawline, and he went in up from below, a much more, I think, skilled procedure. And I was told that it would take months to get the surgery in Canada, but strangely enough, when I was just being wheeled into the operating room in Oklahoma, I got a call from Canada saying that I could get the surgery done more quickly. But at that point, I was pretty much committed to a free market, or at least more free market solution. So I went ahead with the surgery, and then a short time thereafter, after an analysis of the lump that was pulled from my neck was done, it was found to be, it had lymphoma cells, it had cancer cells in it. And I took this to my doctor and went to a cancer specialist, and I went through a couple of rounds of chemotherapy and radiation therapy, which have had some lasting effects. And I went back for my regular checkups, went for blood work, I went for a wide variety of tests to make sure nothing was returning. And the reason I'm telling you all of this bittersweet story is that just yesterday, I went for my final checkup. And my blood work was perfect, my health is good, and I am now considered to be cancer-free, in no need of additional visits. So there's 6 years of your life with something in the back of your mind, like every time you wash your armpits and your groin, you check for all these things. And I've been fortunate, but also well prepared in terms of health. I've had pretty good health habits my whole life. I've exercised since I was in my mid-teens, pretty hard. And I eat fairly well. I weigh less than I weighed when I was 20. At the moment, I clock in just under 200 pounds, just under 6 feet tall. And I have cut out almost all sugar from my diet, and a wide variety of other things I've done to stay as healthy as possible. But it is a wild thing to suddenly have that whole 6-year sequence encapsulated in one bookend start and one bookend end. And I remember when I got the phone call from my doctor in the States, and he said it was cancer. You know those weird things they do in movies where they zoom in and pull back at the same time, and you get these weird distortion things where you feel very close and very distant at the same time? It's kind of the same thing when you get a diagnosis of what has a pretty reasonable chance of dry erasing you off the whiteboard of life. When you get the news of what may reasonably likely kill you in a painful and horrible way. And it's, of course, particularly painful because I had a young daughter and a wonderful wife and a great life. When you get that kind of news, there's this giant zoom out where you see your life in a big perspective. You know what it is? It's like a little flash forward to your deathbed. And it's funny, the very first video I did was called Live Like You're Dying, which was live like you're looking back on your life. Like you get all the way to the end of your life, you get to your deathbed, and you're lying there looking back at your life. Live like you get to go back in time, 50 years, 40 years, 60 years, 30 years, whatever. Like you're on your deathbed, you have hours to live, and you get to go back in time and live your life again. You get to go back with the knowledge and wisdom of your deathbed to live your life again. Now, I've lived my life that way, and it wasn't like I had regrets for my past, but I certainly had regrets about what seemed to be an extraordinarily diminished future. But there's this gift that sudden sword-swinging mortality gives you, which is other problems, other issues fade into fair insignificance. and the requirement for courage becomes immediate and very vivid. There's a scene in the movie The Matrix where one of the characters dies in a very ignoble way, and she says, "Not like this, not this way, not like this." And I felt that very strongly in the moment that the diagnosis was handed to me. Like, "You bastard of a lump, you don't get me. Time will get me, but you won't." And that will to survive, I believe, is important. It's not the only thing. And there are people who fight as hard as I did, who are felled by this satanic disease. And I do not wish to say that it was for lack of courage or lack of want or lack of trying or lack of willpower that they succumbed. I am lucky, but my luck was influenced by the titanic willpower and opposition that I had. And to have something to live for is so important if you want to live well. And not just if you get a terrible disease, but if you want to live well, you must have things to live for, and that means being courageous, and that means being virtuous, and that means speaking the truth, and that means fighting evil, and that means all of the great things that I have continually talked about on this channel for more than a decade, I guess, at this point. You must build yourself a fortress of virtue in order to conquer the kingdom of happiness. There is no other way to do it. You must act in a way that stimulates genuine love in the people around you. Love is our involuntary response to virtue if we're virtuous. There's no way to aim at love directly, any more than there's any way to aim at happiness directly, any more than there's any way to aim at health directly. There's no point waking up in the morning and saying, "I want to be healthy," and then just going about your day as if nothing had changed. You must aim at the actions which promote health. You're going to eat better, you're going to exercise more, you're going to learn more about your body, you're going to study, and you're going to change your behavior. Repeating, "I want to be thin," into the mirror does nothing if you don't change your behavior. And we all want to aim at the shortcut which produces the result rather than the difficult slog which actually produces the outcome. I want you to have a life, if you've not been informed by the sudden guillotine of sudden illness, I want your life at least to be informed, if possible, by my drive-by shooting of lumps into my neck. And that means to really, really build the kind of life that you want brick by brick, virtue by virtue. Because we all have choices. We can avoid, we can diminish, we can self-erase ourselves, we can self-censor ourselves, we can become little or nothing, we can hope to vanish into general floating dust in order to avoid the challenges and the tragedies and the evils of this world. And don't you dare do it. Don't you dare do it. Don't you dare.